Hi everyone, welcome back to the Tech Talk. I'm Adara from the Tech Talk, and today's episode we'll be talking about curiosity to code, navigating the crossroads of AI and crypto. We will talk about the journey behind some of today's most fascinating innovators working at the intersection of AI and crypto, before the code, before the capital, and before the buzzwords. There were questions, doubts, risk, and defining moments. We sit down with Mr. David to trace the path that led him here. What sparked his curiosity? What nearly made him quit? What he's learned about success, failures, and about himself along the way. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to build in this space, this episode pulls back the curtain. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Mr. David here. So, Mr. David, thank you for coming here today. I know we've been having some kind of like setbacks, but I'm glad you're here.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. It's good to finally have the program.
Yeah, thank you. So, before we get into like breakthroughs and big ideas,
Mhm.
I think first thing I want you to do is I need to take me back to the beginning, to like life before you got into AI and crypto. How was the startup like? Not the startup, but what was your mind then, the mindset you had before you said, okay, I think I would like to go into AI and crypto?
So, all right. So just to introduce myself much more officially, my name is David Mogaji, and I'm the CEO of CandleWeb. What we do at CandleWeb is we use AI to automate cryptocurrency trading for those who have zero or no knowledge about cryptocurrency. But talking about how I got into AI and then crypto, even before CandleWeb, I think we can trace it as far back as when I was still younger,
Yeah.
right? So then I think my cousin brother always called me Conan the Barbarian, or Conan the Destroyer rather. And
Why?
yeah, the reason why he always called me that was, so anytime I see an electronic device, all I need to have is a piece of screwdriver or a knife. I'm definitely going to lose that stuff, right? I just wanted to understand how it works and all of that. And then fast forward to when I got exposed to the internet, and then phones that could access the internet. I
Yeah.
was actually fascinated by what is possible, like what one can do, right, and all of that. And a lot of other things kind of shaped my ideology around technology, especially when it comes to AI, right? I was someone who grew up watching movies like iRobot, Terminator, and the rest of them. So a lot of times I've always thought about how what it would feel like, right, to actually have an intelligent machine that you can be able to have a conversation with, the way you and I were having this conversation right now. So immediately I got to find out about AI and all of that, I was like, okay, I have to get into this. And then that was how I just jumped into it, and then took a course, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
So, did you take a course here? I think I heard somewhere that
Like that.
you also
Oh
took a
yeah.
course in data lead.
Yes. I actually did take a course. So before I came to Data Lead, I had already taken about two courses, right? And then because of the fact that I was very busy, because we're still just starting CandleWeb then, so I needed a way I could be much more accountable to an external person or authority. So I now signed up to take a course on data science
Yeah.
here at Data Lead. But due to the amount of work I had then, at some point I had to just drop off. But it was a wonderful experience. The lecture was amazing.
Thank God. So let's talk about is there any specific moments that shifted your path towards crypto or AI, or was it more of a slow drift? But based on what you've said, I think you've had the drive to always be into that space. But what's really like brought you like that definite moment in your life that said, okay, yes, this is really what I want to do?
All right. I think for CandleWeb specifically, right? I think it started in 2019, right? So I had gotten into crypto since 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a team then. We're working for Dash, worked for Smart Cash, worked for blockchain, right? But for me, all of those were just passive, right? Because I was still in school then. So for me, it was just a side hustle for me to make extra money.
Pass.
Yeah. And then later, while we were working for them, I now kind of looked further into the technology, right? And then I liked the idea of decentralization, being in charge of your finances and everything. And then I now got into trading. Then I think it was around 2019 when I was trading. I was trading for myself, and then I had some group of investors, like closed group of investors I was trading for as well. And one major thing that usually happens to people who trade manually is their inability to control their emotion, right? And that tends to get them to lose their money eventually. So that was what happened to me in 2019. I think I lost about 2 million naira then that didn't belong to me, and I was just coming out of school, right? So it was a very bad situation for me. So while I was trying to see how I could recoup, put funds together, pay back my investors, I started thinking, okay, if I couldn't do this well due to the fact that I couldn't really manage my emotions, because that was the major issue there, right? It wasn't that I wasn't making profits. The issue was I couldn't control my emotion. And a lot of people will tell you as a trader, control your emotions, but it's easier said than done in Helsinki, right? So that's when I got to understand, okay, how these algorithms work, to understand that, okay, yeah, it's mostly math statistics, right? And even if you're not even very good at maths, that's not like something that hinders you, right? You have a lot of frameworks and all of that. So I started putting things together, and then gradually I put a team together, and we're like, okay, this is what I think we should do. I think there's a huge market here. We started doing market surveys, we built our first MVP and all of that, and we just continue moving forward right from that point.
Oh, that's wonderful. I like that you explained the progress that you went through. First of all, you went into the pain points of what you know people are going through currently. So you first did your research before you went straight into it. But along the line of doing the research and getting your team and getting your clients, did any sort of fear factor come in? Were you scared that people might not want to, people might draw back, people might like go back on their investments, or were you scared that I don't know, people when they want to do something big, just there's this fear that just comes that someone will not accept them, and they might not be accepted, or what they are giving might not just be that good. So did you ever come across like that sort of emotion? Did it ever come to you? And if it did, how did you overcome it?
Okay. So I would say no,
Oh,
right? Yeah, I would say no. And I'm not trying to sound like a superhuman or something. It's mostly because of the fact that Candleweb is not like my first venture.
oh,
Yeah, it's not my first venture. So I've always been someone who believe in the idea of creating something, right? So I like the idea of having to like create something that others can use, like a solution of some sort. And in the past, I've had teams that we've tried to create one thing or the other, and eventually they don't work out. Maybe either the team falls out, maybe because of the person who was the CEO at that point is not very active, or some other things, maybe regulation or something. But for Candle specifically, I didn't feel that, I didn't feel any form of fear. And the reason is mainly because of the fact that I got to a resolve in my life at some point, right? I came to a resolve that success, right, lies beyond the point of fear,
okay.
right? Yes. So this is let me give an example. So if you let's say for example the tab you have with you at the moment, right? So let's say you want to browse the internet, right? Now you can be scared that if you should open your browser it wouldn't work or something, right? But the truth is you would never know until you open your browser. So there's a 50-50 chance, right? If you go back, there's a theory, I don't know if it's a theory, but I think it's called Schrodinger's cat, right? With the theory is about a cat that is in a box, right? And then the theory says that the cat is alive and the cat is dead at the same time. So both possibilities are true, but you'd only find out if the cat is alive or dead when you open the box. right? So that's kind of the approach I work with, right? So when I'm doing something, I don't focus on if it's gonna work or it's not gonna work. I just want to get it out there, get real feedback and validation for me to know if yes, I should be scared, I should be worried, or anything of sort.
Okay. So, since you never really had the fear of starting out, did you ever have this strong need to quit? Because when you start out and then you see the work, and
Yeah.
then the work gets too
Overwhelming.
overwhelming, there's this
Yeah.
need to just like, oh, I don't think this is for me. I
Mhm.
think I would like to stay on the sidelines and just let someone else like carry on to that.
Mhm.
So like, how do you go about that mentality to like, oh, this is so overwhelming. I don't know if I can keep going. Because now you've talked about how you no longer feel fear.
Mhm.
So now there's this thing that you just have to keep going. How do you keep going and not like quit?
Great. Well, to be very honest, I've had that thought like a handful of times. I can't even count how many times.
Oh,
Yeah, and being part of a startup or leading, being in a position of leadership within a startup is not one that is easy, right? So you're going to face like a lot of challenges, right? And sometimes when you're unable to figure out how you can go ahead to resolve these issues, right? It's easy for you to feel like quitting. But for me personally and my journey, some of the things that have kind of helped me still stay on track, right, to continue with the journey is due to my friends, families, and even other entrepreneurs, right? So an example is there was a time I was feeling very overwhelmed. I can't remember off the roof of my head what I was going through at that point, right? But there's this my friend Chiamaka then I was chatting with. So I was like, man, I just feel overwhelmed and stuff. And she was like, yeah, but that I should know that I can't quit, right? That I have like a lot of people depending on me, not just my team members, but other Nigerians and Africans who would benefit from what we're building at Camberweb,
yeah.
right? And all of that. Aside from her, I still have other male friends like Michael, who he always sounds like Andrew Tate. So he'll be like, yeah, it's not going to be easy, just keep pushing and all of those things. So a lot of this encouragement I get from these people is something that kind of gets me to believe that yeah, tomorrow is going to be better, right? And I shouldn't quit. And then I think one of the other experience I had that kind of helped me when it comes to the idea to keep pushing, even though it looks like I should quit, right? When everything looks bleak, is one closed event I attended here in Abuja. I think it was organized by Iyolua, that's the co-founder of Flutterwave and Andela. And then he was sharing his story. A lot of people were asking him questions. And there was one particular thing he said that I think I'm just going to die with that. Like, it's going to stick until I die. And he said that when they started Flutterwave, right? In fact, I think he started first with build things that I had. That was the first thing he said. He said build things that I had. And then he said that when they started Flutterwave, there was no infrastructure for payment processing, right? And all of that for businesses here in Nigeria and all over Africa. So it was very difficult building, right? And that because of the fact that it was very difficult building, they didn't really have competitors. Not because the space wasn't attractive, but because of the fact that it takes a lot of hard work, right, for you to be able to build the infrastructure that is needed to process payments,
Yeah.
right? And then hearing him say some of these things and share a little bit about some of the challenges they had to go through, how he would go to a bank and then he's going to sit at the reception for a long time waiting for the manager. All of those challenges that he shared just made me realize that this whole entrepreneurship journey is not a walk in the park, right? You're going to definitely have your own share of challenges, right? But those challenges, you being able to overcome those challenges is what makes up your story,
Yeah.
right? So if you quit at the face of the first challenge you see or you encounter, it's going to make success difficult, right? It's going to make success difficult. And I mean, there's a popular saying that if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Yeah, everyone wants a good life. Everybody wants to build this or be recognized and all of those things that comes with having a successful startup. But the thing is, no one is really willing to do the work, right? So yes, I've been scared. I've felt like quitting and all of those things, but because of the kind of people I have around me, kind of content I consume as well, I just feel like, yeah, I'm gonna feel that pain. Yes, I will feel that pain, but I'm gonna live through it. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to learn the lessons I need to learn from them, and I'm just going to keep pushing forward regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you for everything you just explained. It's really giving insight into your whole mindset and how you've been preparing for your journey so far. But another question I would like to ask you, because you mentioned about your lessons. So, what are a few lessons that you've learned so far that has really like shaped you, like through your journey to your present now?
Hmm. Okay. I think there are a lot of lessons, but I think one I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs always struggle with most of the time is most people are scared of rejection,
Mm.
right? So they are scared that if you meet someone, you're trying to bring in a new teammate, maybe because of the fact that you're not able to pay them salary at that beginning stage, they would say no. An investor might not find your product or your startup attractive. So a lot of people are scared of that idea of no, of getting a no from someone.
Yeah.
And that kind of make them to put themselves in this closed, tight space, right, where they are not able to network, they're not able to grow their team, right? At the end of the day, they push themselves to a point of exhaustion, right? And at the end of the day, the startup just kind of dies naturally, right? So my own is instead of being scared of rejection, of someone telling you no, see it as a journey to learn, right? So the first person tells you no, for example, instead of you to quit at that point, go back and reevaluate your conversation with this person, right? Ask yourself, okay, what did I tell this person? How did I approach this conversation? Am I supposed to listen more? Am I supposed to ask this person, okay, what would be your interest in this deal? What would make it say yes to me? And all of those things, right? So this is some of those things, and then go back, refine your approach, talk to the next person, right? And one thing again is rejection has never killed anyone,
True.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it has never killed
If
anyone.
anything, it has built character.
Exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier that way that okay, you've gotten a lot of rejections, and then when you get your first yes, you see it as a gift. You'd appreciate it because if it came easy, you're probably not going to appreciate the value that person, whether it's a teammate, an investor, an advisor, a board member, or whatever, is bringing to the table. You wouldn't really appreciate that, right? So
Yeah.
it's always a good thing that yeah, you're not scared of rejection, right? Always be open minded. If someone tells you yes, be happy, learn from it. If someone tells you no, also learn from it, right? And then another thing I've always noticed is that people always give excuses of like, okay, I don't know how to build, I don't know how to talk to people, I don't know how to network. The thing is, when it comes to business, when it comes to startup, the startup doesn't care,
What you
right?
don't know.
What you don't know. It doesn't care about your feelings, right? What that startup cares about is two things. Is it going to fail or is it going to succeed?
And that depends entirely on you.
On you as well, right? So that's what the startup cares about. So if you're constantly looking at what some of the things or characteristics that you feel you do not have is, what you're going to see is more of that, right?
Yeah.
So an example, prior to this time, I was very, very introverted. In fact, if you ask a lot of my classmates then here in Data Lead, they'll tell you I always keep to myself. So you hardly see me talking, except it's necessary, right? But starting Candle Web, I had to start reading about a lot of things. And then I noticed that as a startup founder, especially during the early stage, right, you're like the number one salesperson that your company has.
Yeah.
So how can you sell if you're introverted?
You have to kick your struggle. Keep
Exactly,
going.
right? So due to that, I had to start learning to start talking more, right? So sometimes when I see people, I can just start a conversation like, oh, I like your shoes. You know, I like this, I like that. Just get myself to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? Because that's the only way I will be able to talk to my customers when I see them out there, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't shy away from any kind of conversation,
Yeah.
right? So look at the things that you know you're not very good at and see how you can make up for them, right? You don't have to be 100%, right? But at least being 60, 50% helps,
Yeah, it's
right?
all about like baby steps, you know.
Exactly, exactly. So if you're a founder who is not technical, you don't know how to write code, right? And you're like, oh, I can't find a CTO, I don't have anyone that can write the software for me, but I have the idea.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like you're not very serious, right? Go online, pick up a book. I mean, there's a book, Bits of Python. It's just about 110 pages. But by the time you're done with that book, at least you'll be able to understand Python to a very large degree. In fact, an example is when I was starting Web. So what I've always done, I've played around a handful of technologies, right? So I've been a backend engineer. I do blockchain engineering. I do artificial intelligence as well, but I'm not good at UI UX. So give me anything UI UX to do, you're just gonna you're just going to beat me up because I'm just going to do the worst job ever, right? But if I see a good um, user interface, I would know, I would appreciate it, right? But for me to be the one to design that is something I don't know how to do. So when I started Web, it was just me then, right? So I started writing the backend infrastructure for the system, and from the back end, I already had like my database schema, the flow of the software, what pages I needed. So I have a friend who is a front end engineer, right? So I met with the guy and I was like, okay, I know you're working on your own stuff, but can you help me just create the initial version for Web? That's the UI and the UX for it. He was like, he's too busy. I was like, okay, I don't even mind. I'll hustle up the money and I'll pay you. The guy was still like, no, I don't think I'll do this. Right now, I could have taken it personal, as most people would, but I'm not an entitled person. Right, this is my friend, my very good friend. But I mean, he's entitled to his time and what he wants to commit to. Right, so instead of me to go back and be like, oh, let me shelve this. What I did, because then I knew how to use Figma. That's Figma design tool, right? But it's been a while I used it. So what I did is I went back on YouTube, took a mini course on Figma, right? I just did my little wireframe. You see the colors. I still have the picture on my phone. I think I'm going to share one of these days. It was out of whack. Like, it was terrible. Like when
Your first design.
oh yeah, it was very very terrible. Like the colors were off. The cards, like everything, the text, everything was off. Right, but I didn't want to focus on that. Right, so I just used my Figma. I made the design. Eventually, I got someone who does design. So I gave him that's what I have done. And then he was able to even use that, then improve on
The
it.
design.
Yes, which was still very terrible. Right?
Why?
It was still
Was it
terrible.
just you just judging it, or it was actually very
Oh
terrible?
no, it was actually terrible. Both mine and his was terrible. The difference is that mine was unbearable.
Oh,
His own was bearable, but it was still
terrible.
terrible because he doesn't do like UI UX. He was just strictly a graphic designer.
Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
he was
why.
he was strictly a graphic designer. So he doesn't understand things around design teams and some of those things that has to do with front end development and UI UX. So he just did it like that. But we kicked off with it, right? And then over time, we've been able to grow the team. We've been able to get a full-time UI UX designer who has been able to like model the website to what we actually want it to be. We're still improving on it and all of that. So all I'm trying to say is, if all you're seeing as someone who's trying to venture into a business is challenges, and that's what you're focusing on, that's forever what you're going to see, right? And it would always pay if you know little or something about what you're doing, right? So for Web, for example, there are times that I'm having meeting with marketing. I can speak like very well with them. I can speak their language because when I was working with Dash, Smart Cash, I was working as a digital marketer for them, right? If I'm speaking with the engineering team, it's easy. I'm coming from a tech background,
Yeah.
right? If I'm talking to the guys in the trading department who are overseeing the behavior and training our AI constantly, I'm having a conversation with them. I can talk with them because I have traded manually before. I might not be as good, but not even I might not. I'm not as good as they are, but at least I know a little bit of something that I can be able to ask questions, still learn from them, right? So I just feel like it pays for you to know a little bit of something about most of the things going on within your company.
So you mentioned like success going into the business, but before we talk about the success that has to do with going into a venture like this, I think people would like to know about the risk that they would encounter going into or thinking about a project like this or starting a business like this. So basically, I want to know if someone wants to start a business with AI or with crypto, and like they invested 10 years of their life and they've gotten nothing out of it. What kind of advice do you like to share concerning the risk that has to do with going into a big venture like this?
All right. So the thing is this, what I'd say would most likely not resonate with a lot of people, and it might not work with a lot of people, especially when it comes to risk going into a business, right? So an example I'll give is when I started Candleweb, right, and everything. The further I went in, the more I realized the amount of work that it will require, right? And when I talk about work, I just don't mean the physical work. I mean like the amount of time it's going to consume, how I'll probably not be in charge of my time anymore, and all of those things. So the truth is, when it comes to building a business or a startup, right? The truth is, you can even spend 20 years and nothing would come out of it. That's like financially,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I think one advice I always tell people is be comfortable knowing that you can fall flat on your face and nothing comes out of it. So for me, for example, but as I said, it's most likely not going to resonate with a lot of people. For me, for example, when I started, and then as I said, the deeper I went in, the more I saw the work that would be required. What I did is I have some loved ones that I usually talk to about certain things. What I did is I spoke to some of them and I told them that, see, today, at least we'll have little money, we can go and eat shawarma, and be happy. I told them, I was like, see, if this doesn't work, there is a high possibility that I'll go so broke that I'll probably just have just one shirt and one trouser.
And that doesn't scare you.
No, it doesn't. I told, in fact, it was my girlfriend I was talking to. I was like, it can just be just one shirt and one trouser. And to be honest, personally, I'm okay with that. That's what I told her.
But you've invested your time, like
Yes.
years, and
Yes.
it doesn't work out, and you're fine with that.
Yes. And the reason why I'm fine with that is one is the first thing is, as much as money is a reward for hard work, right? The reason why me personally I'm doing what I'm doing, the money is important, right? I'm not trying to downplay that, but that's not exactly my focal point. Like that's not my focal point of concentration, right? I'm more interested in the impact that we'll be able to create from Candleweb. As I shared earlier, we have a lot of Africans, a lot of Nigerians that are poor, right? So if I can see 1,000 people, 3,000 people, a million people who have become like millionaires through Candleweb, and I'm broke, to be honest, I would be very, very happy with that. I wouldn't really mind, right? But it might not be the same thing for everybody, right? So I think for anyone who wants to go into business, I think one of the things you have to ask yourself is, what is your risk tolerance? How much risk can you take?
Especially when it comes to crypto.
Yes, especially when it comes to crypto. In fact, any kind of business you're doing,
Okay.
right? In fact, risk is very, very essential. If you look at the likes of Larry Fink, the current CEO of BlackRock, right? After he lost a huge amount of money on Wall Street before they founded BlackRock, he said that moving forward, they would not invest in anything that they don't understand the risk. Do you understand? So for me, I believe that's how you should live life. In fact, risk applies to everything. If you're crossing the road, right, on a normal day,
Yeah.
you have to check both sides.
Before you cross.
What you're doing is literally you're evaluating your risk. What are the chances of you being knocked down by a car? So at that point, you might not know it, but you're calculating risk, you're evaluating the risk involved in that. So it's the same thing with business ventures, right? You have to be true to yourself, right? Like for me, I was true to myself. I was like, if I lose everything, I'm fine.
Can't be that easy.
Yes, it can't be that easy, but as I said, it's all these things depend on mindset,
Yeah.
right? So there are certain stories that I wouldn't be sharing here, personal experience, but I've been through certain stages of life that I've seen some kind of suffering. Like when I mean suffering, I mean like very serious suffering, right? And now I'm here, right? And one thing I've come to realize around all of these things is what will save you at the end of the day is not your money, is not this, is your mindset, is you. Do you understand? So you might, at this point, you might think what's missing in your life is money, but I can tell you that you can become a trillionaire, the first trillionaire ever tomorrow, and you'll still be way more unhappy. In fact, you'll be way more unhappy than when you were broke, right? So it just comes down to being truthful to self, right? So first, okay, what are the risks, right? Okay, let's say for example, you want to start a business venture, you ask yourself, okay, what are the risks? The funds I have, let's say you're bootstrapping, the funds I have, how long would it be able to take me before I can get an investor?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, do I want to spend 100% of what I have, right, before I get an investor? Right? Do I want to spend just 60? And if within the time I'm spending that 60, I don't get an investor, I don't get customers, I quit. Right? So you have to just be truthful to yourself. Don't let someone else tell you what your risk tolerance is.
You need to know that.
You need to know that for yourself. You need to accept that and live that. You get, so you need to understand that. And when it comes to things like even trading and all of that, risk is still important. As I said, it's something that cuts across all domains, right? It's not just in business, right? It's not just in business. That's why even when you're building, they have to like check how solid your foundation is. But you're checking the risk. Okay, what are the risks or chances of the building collapsing on you? So the risk tolerance and risk management is something that is infused in every single thing, right? Like for example, now at CandleWeb, for our users that we trade for, right? We always tell them that okay, since the system is automated, our AI handles from analysis to trade management, that's placing orders for you, to risk management, right? So we always let them know that okay, within every single trade, based on how our AI has been configured, this is the amount that you're risking within any single trade, because they need to be aware of this thing, right? Just the same way that as someone who's building a business, you need to be aware of the risk that is involved in your business, right? And then from there, you can now map out what your risk tolerance is. You've known what the overall risk is. Map out what your risk tolerance is, and then tell yourself the truth. Don't allow someone to tell you that, oh yeah, wait until you've spent everything you have and you're not living on a tree like a monkey before you tell yourself the truth or something like that. So you have to evaluate these things for yourself, talk to yourself, accept the truth for it, and then live by it. Basically.
And to add to what you said, because what you've said is actually very enlightening. I think people also may need to go read some books on like risk management, so they can better prepare themselves into like what they're putting themselves into, like whatever business or venture they're going into. Really, thank you. So that's it for the questions I have for you, and I'm really glad to like to have done this podcast with you. I have learned a lot, I can't lie, and I would actually say Albia also has learned quite a lot from this podcast, and I hope you will come back again next time. Maybe next time you come back, you're going to tell us more things, more of your experiences, lessons that you've learned. Probably even give us insiders info.
That's the problem. I'm happy to be here again. I took a course here, so.
Oh yeah, that is also true. So I think you people, you have seen our podcast. Anyways, thank you all for joining in and tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.